Joey, you were in the mortgage industry for 11 years. Some people might say my monthly mortgage payment is my largest expense. Would you agree with them?
Totally disagree. Yeah, taxes far outweigh that, especially when you think about over your entire lifetime.
I agree with that. And I know just having gotten off the phone with our accountants last week, talking about our tax projection for 2020, I had a little throw up in my mouth, to be honest with you.
No doubt. And I think today's episode really hits on a lot of questions people have when they start learning about infinite banking. They start thinking about, how does it apply in how I pay down debt? How does it apply in creating passive income through short-term rentals or land flipping or whatever it may be? I mean, Nelson Nash talks about in his book that 34.5 cents out of every dollar is going to pay debt of some sort or finance charges. Well, the natural next step is, how does this apply to me paying taxes? I pay at least that much in taxes.
Yeah, I think that if you're thinking of how do I use my dollars efficiently, then the natural next step, could be, how do I apply this to taxes? And if you're listening to our show for the first time, I want to always just help you understand where we're at. We're talking about a concept called infinite banking, and it's the use of dividend-paying life insurance policies to act as a financial engine. And today's subject matter is, how do we, or can we, pay our taxes by using these cash values? And Joey, we will break down the fact that this acts very similar to a savings account. So why couldn't we do that?
Exactly. Those are the kind of questions we're going to uncover today. We're going to talk about how profit first, that may be a whole new concept to you, but Mike McAllowitz's books, how we apply that in the way we pay taxes through these policies. We're going to talk about, should you start a policy just to pay taxes, or should it just be a part of a bigger piece? There's all different angles there. Let's kind of unpack all those in this episode.
Well, I think too, the goal should be to expand our mind. And this episode, as all of these episodes are digging deeper into a very specific subject that some people will say is complex. I would just say it has details into it that we might want to uncover, right? Because if I can pay my taxes through an engine like this and get compounding interest on it for the rest of my life, it's possible that I might be in a better position. And that's the reason why we cover these subjects. And I want you to figure out, can you pay your taxes for your next life insurance policy? And this episode will help you figure that out. Let's belly up.
Welcome to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, your guide to understanding how to get out of the Wall Street rat race and start your own mailbox money lifestyle. Now, don't let these handsome Southern draws fool you. These financial minds are teaching our country to enhance savings, increase cash flow, and create passive income, all without the help of Wall Street. Are you ready to break through? Now here are your hosts, Russ Morgan and Joey Murray.
Welcome into the round table. I'm your host, Russ, the Idea Guy Morgan. I love talking about infinite banking, and today is a decision-making day. You're going to have to decide, do you start a new policy or do you pay back loans? Because that's the topic. That's the only one you can choose from. It's got to be one or the other. And I'm going to hear from the $1 Million Smile, Mr. J.D. Hill, first today. J.D., what do you think? Which one should you do?
I say payback policy loans.
Payback policy loans. Okay. Hey, by the way, what was the game show that had everybody on the squares? Was the Hollywood Squares? Is that what it's called?
The Brady Bunch.
I think so. The Brady Bunch. Yeah. I think it was Hollywood Squares. Maybe it was Brady Bunch, but that's what I feel like today as I'm looking at you guys across the table. Now, I've got to introduce somebody that today his shirt does not match his backdrop. You can see him clearly. Our resident pilot, Mark the Gooch Haraguchi. Hey, Mark, what's up, man?
Not much. I told you guys there's a rotation, and I got to keep cycling the shirts through because I'm not doing laundry every week. So
I'm going to cycle this one out. This one didn't do it for me. It did not do it. Now, On the other side of the table, on the other side of the table, I have downtown Ernie. I'll ask you a million questions. You got to speak up today. Brown. What's up, Ernie?
What's up, Russ? How are you?
Man, I'm 100%. I'm 100% today. I don't know if everybody knows this, but I got the Rona last week. The my Corona.
It
wasn't
no
good.
bueno.
But you know what? It also wasn't that bad. Do you think it's just because I'm bulletproof, or I got a mild case, or this is just what it's about?
I think it might have something to do with all those oils you probably dumped on your head.
Yeah.
Ooh, the oils, definitely. I have been sprinkling some frankincense and some raven all over me. Yes, I am that guy. All right. Last but not least, my partner in crime, the Italian stallion, Mr. Joey Murray. What's up, Joey?
Howdy. Glad to be here. And I'm excited about this subject, Russ, because this is one of, if not one of the most asked questions. When people have extra cash, they're looking for, okay, this dilemma. Back and forth. I've got policy loans. Is that a bad thing that I have those? I mean, I've been trained to think that loans are, a negative thing. But in infinite banking world, those could be positive. So should I just use this towards starting a new policy or not? So anyways, I'm just excited. We're getting to cover this today. And if you're on watching today live, because you're in our inner circle, keep throwing questions out as we go so that we can answer them as we're going.
Actually,
that would be a good idea.
I'd like to throw this one out. Everyone who's in here, why don't you, if you could, put in the chat and just let us know right now off the top of your head, what would you do? And we'll see what everybody thinks when we get to the end.
Good call. Yeah, I like that. Good call. All right. Well, this is an interesting thought process, Joey. And I think one of the things we have to go through in our heads is the first question I typically ask is when you come to me and you say, Russ, should I pay back the loan or should I start a new policy? Because usually it's because I have some new amount of money, whether it's monthly, a big lump sum. And so that's where I really want to know. I think that the real first starting point or the framework that we have to go through on this is kind of where is the source of funds coming from? Is it sustainable? Are you going to see it happen on a regular basis, or is this just like a one-time thing? What do you guys think? What process do you take somebody through, Ernie, when they ask you, hey, what should I do here?
Yeah, I think evaluating the source of the funds, because it's an in-time decision. I think we're making a decision in the moment, but in light of what? In light of where we're at. So I think another thing is the source of funds is one thing. Is it going to be consistent? Like you said, is it a one-time thing? But another thing to look at is at what point in our life are we, right? Where's our life cycle? How much longer do we want to have source of funds coming in to expand? Or are we at a point where we want to start to replenish? And that might be a way to think about this is new premium, expand, loan repayment, replenish. And I think it depends on where we're at. And I think we'll be evaluating that constantly, because we won't just ask this question one time. I think this is an over and over and over question we'll be asking ourselves.
Yeah.
When I appreciate
Go ahead. JD, what do you think? I don't want to hear from Joey yet. I want to hear from you.
You don't want to hear from Joey? You want to hear from me?
Yeah, man.
Well, I think it's interesting. Are we expecting a windfall, right, of cash in the future? Because that could determine if we pay back a loan or if we start a new policy as well. I think another thing to consider is, as you're continuing to expand your system with, different businesses or in real estate, are we or maybe are we being overly ambitious, right, with what we're expecting in terms of return? And, I think all of those things need to be taken into account and into consideration on whether we start a new policy, or are we being strategic with how we take out a loan because we are expecting a windfall in the future to then repay that? Because if we are, then we can take increased cash flows and we can start a new policy with it.
Joey?
I think a couple things, and actually this is something that Ernie brought up to me that I'm grateful he reminded me that where you're at with your current policies is important. Like, some people may have just started theirs and they've got sometimes 10 years left on their paid up additions rider, and they're continuing to overfund their current policies with that. But some people may be within a year or two of their paid up addition rider falling off. Sometimes that's 60 or 70% of what they've been used to putting in the way of deposits into a policy. Man, there very well could be a reason to get one started a little bit sooner than later, because we know that that's coming.
Yeah, well, I think, one, we got to have clarity and direction as to which path we're trying to go. Like you're saying, I think if we use the lens of thinking long range, are we making a decision for today, or are we making it for 10 years from now, 30 years from now? And I think, all of that has to go into this. And obviously this is one of those things you really would love to always know the answer to. Which one should I do? Give us the simple response. And there is no simple response to money. It always depends, right? That's why it's important to have a coach. I mean, Joey, imagine if you wouldn't have had me early on in your life, how in the world would you have made it?
I mean, when you put it like that, Russ, I'd be lost. I'd be just completely without direction. There's no question.
You definitely wouldn't be in your closet right now.
That's right.
There's no way. He would be in that roving car driving around somewhere with his phone still attached to his hip. And what I mean by, like, he used to have the buckle where it was attached to his belt. He would still be there talking to like realtor after realtor. He would not be on the path to financial freedom because he wouldn't have been thinking that way. So what are some things, though, that we need to consider, right? I think there's some obstacles that we've got to overcome. Mark, what would you say are some of those things that are going to help play into our decision that we better watch out for? Otherwise, it'll catch us.
Well, I think we've gone through some of that here already, which is, am I being overly ambitious? Am I forecasting something that probably doesn't really fit into the realm of reasonable? Am I extending myself to the point where any little hiccup along the way is going to cause a problem? And maybe then it's time to, okay, let's reel this back and let's do a more strategic approach that has a higher probability of success.
Well, Sherry, I know you've been applying this personally, so it's always the easiest to learn from stories, and our own experience are the ones we can tell the easiest. So how have you been applying this personally in your own life?
So there's actually a couple angles that I can come at this one from. I've just been, I hit a point where I'd hit my max insurable amount. So even if I had more dollars, I couldn't get more insurance. So I was kind of stuck in that quandary. So my avenue of solution was, well, let's put all those excess dollars and let's pay back what we've borrowed out. Let's make more space to then go out and do other deals. Let's lower the balance amount. And one of the things I was just thinking about here is, if you came into a windfall right now, and maybe you didn't have sustainable cash going forward, could you do two things at once? Could you pay down part of your loans, which would then create a sustainable cash flow going forward, and then now create a new policy from that sustainable cash flow? So it may not necessarily be a one or the other, there may be opportunities where through discussion, through conversation, we might be able to do two things here at once.
Well, Mark, I want to add to that. Like what we're talking about here is not a cut and dry black and white answer to that question. Like, should I start a policy or should I pay back loans? And I think the most valuable thing that we can do on this show today is to talk through the framework of how to think about it. Because when I say you that are listening, you are in our inner circle, you that are engaging with Wealth Without Wall Street, you're on a path of financial freedom, but it's your path. It's ultimately your goals that you're trying to accomplish, and your policy and your system of policies is yours. But how the key thing we can do as coaches is to help provide you the framework to think. Nelson Nash, our mentor, the guy that is, has given us the gift of infinite banking, was 100% of the time trying to get us to think. And I'm just grateful we get to have this conversation, because it's going to hopefully expand your thinking to where you know what the answer is for you, and your coach can only solidify that with you by making sure you're thinking through the proper framework. I just wanted to add.
Well, I mean, no, I think that's important. Like, I mean, you got to know all of the factors that go into that discussion, right? Because there is opportunity cost if on both sides of the equation. There's an opportunity cost of what would that policy be worth if we would have started it, right? Because, I mean, we're going to live a certain number of years, and at the end of our time frame, those last 2 years, 5 years, 15 years, whatever it is, that's what, that's the first couple of years of the policy that you start. But on the other end of the coin is the expense of carrying the loan balance. And we've made it clear so many times on the show, you can't borrow money from these insurance companies just for the sake of borrowing money and make money. That doesn't work, right? I mean, our country is constantly trying to accomplish this objective, and we're seeing the implications of it. There are definitely symptoms from complete debt and always going into debt. But if we're borrowing the dollars and putting them to work at a higher return, and that is not by starting a new policy, by the way, that's by buying assets that produce cash flow. There's the rub. We're trying to determine which one of those things should I make the decision today. Do I reduce my interest expense today by paying off the loan, or do I carry the interest expense, start a new policy? Because the things I'm doing with the borrowed money is coming back at a fast pace. So if I've got so much cash coming back to repay policy loans, and I'm going to pay them off in, say, 2 or 3 years. Let's just use an example here, and this isn't going to be a perfect one, but let's just use a $100,000 policy loan. The interest rate on a policy loan is 5%. Is that fair, simple? So yeah, if you're keeping track with me at home here, if I had a policy loan of $100,000 at 5%, how much in interest did I pay that year? $5,000. Everybody's with me there. All right, let's say at the end of year one, I got $50,000 worth of cash, and I paid off $50,000 or half my policy loan. And so by the end of year two, I would pay how much in loan interest over year two? If I had $50,000 policy loan. $2,500. $2,500. Hey, by the way, just throw them out there. When you guys think about it, it's okay. You talk over each other on this. I know Joey's over there trying to take off his shoes to figure this math out, but we got it. All right. So let's say at the end of year two, I get $25,000 and I pay off half of that policy loan. In year three, how much interest am I going to pay, Joey?
I'm sorry?
$1,250. I'm not going to make everybody suffer through that. All right. So if we add up 5,000, 2,500 at 7,500 plus 1,250, we've got what? $8,750 in
That's
3
right.
years. That's our interest expense. Okay. So think about that in an example. So now, Joey, I start a policy. Instead of paying off the policy loan, I start a policy and I start putting that cash in. and let's just say that I'm just making up numbers. I don't even know what the numbers I'm using as an alternative to doing this. But let's just say I would have started a policy for $20,000 a year. What will be the growth? And you don't even have to know what it is. You can guess. What will be the growth on that policy in about 15 years from now?
From putting $20,000 a year in for 15 years, you said?
Yes. What do you think year 15's cash value growth will be on a $20,000 deposit?
Probably about 30,000.
So it's going to be
50.
What I put in it,
plus another 30. Yeah.
Plus more, right? So if that was my example, do we think that we can make up the $8,750 if we started the new policy?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, but if I carried $100,000 balance on that insurance policy for 15 years, that number is going to start getting big because it's going to be $5,000 the first year. Then it's going to be $5,000 plus interest because it's going to be $105,000 balance at 5%, and it's going to keep growing and growing and growing. Right?
That's right. That's
right. My new policy is not going to outpace that. So when we look at this from a vision standpoint, the way that we have, that's why we have to think long range. We have to say how long am I going to carry this loan balance before I would have it paid off? And it's not that, I still carry policy loans. I mean, do you guys all have policy loans right now?
Yep.
Yes.
So we're always carrying policy loans, but it's because we're doing stuff with the money positively, hopefully, right? We're creating cash flows. And I think that's the part that when we're looking at this, that's why it requires us to think long range. We have to see, are we looking at our policies as assets? Are we looking at them as expenses? Is our policies going to keep growing and expanding so that way we can raise our system?
Is Amazon an expense or is that an asset? Just out of curiosity, because my wife thinks it's an asset.
Well, those who bought into Amazon like 100 years ago, that they probably or 10 years ago. They probably
I'm talking about Amazon deliveries. That's what I'm talking about. Amazon deliveries.
Well, I mean, are you guys starting like a cardboard box and recycling plant there at your house?
We should. We should.
If you repurpose those boxes, there are ways to make money. Here's an off-track story. We were moving from our lake house, what was that, like a week or two ago? And I needed 4 boxes. I had to go pick up the U-Haul trailer. I go up to the U-Haul place, which is at a boat repair shop, like of all places to put a U-Haul. I walk in, of course, the 2 guys in there. I would say there was a banjo, but I'm not certain either one of them would know how to play it. But it was definitely an interesting place. And the guy's like wallet sitting there in front of me and his keys. And it's like on a lower shelf in front of me. And he can't see. I'm like, hey, by the way, somebody's wallet's up here. He goes, well, the gun's back here, so I don't think they're going to get very far. I'm like, yeah, exactly. But anyway, I said, hey, I'm picking up this trailer. And I need 4 or 5 boxes. Do you guys sell like large boxes? He says, what is large? I'm like, I don't know, like 3 foot wide, 3 foot tall. And he kind of like doing his hands and I'm like, yeah, he goes, let me go check. So I was thinking he's going outside to see if his inventory of boxes have come in, right? Well, so I paid for the trailer and then it hits me. I don't have the boxes. And the guy's like, hey, my boss man says he's got those boxes for you. I'm like, oh, cool. I walk around. He's got these 3 flimsy boxes. You can tell Amazon had delivered some parts to his establishment. Maybe not in the last 30 days. I mean, a couple of them had grease on them and stuff. And he's like, will you give me for these 5? Are you going to call it $5? And I'm like, are you serious? Like you were literally just took tools out of this box and handed them to me. But anyway, you can sell boxes. You can make some money back. I'm just telling you. You just find a U-Haul distributor and sell them.
Thank you for being on motivation. That's a good new business model for me.
So did you barter him down to $2?
No, I just gave him the $5 and got out of there. And maybe that's where I got the coronavirus. Now I know where it came
There you
from.
go. There you go.
All right. Ernie, I know you've dealt with our clients probably a lot more than Joey and I have, and you hear stories, and you've thought about ways to help people with this. Give us probably one of the most recent examples that you can think of where somebody was having to make this decision.
A recent example, I mean, today I had one where these people are anticipating an inheritance really soon. And so we're talking about plowing ahead with premium and intentionally carving out policy loans. And I like that story, but I'll tell you that we got this guy who's been a client for a couple of years now. And his whole thought process, if we had talked about this and to this guy, this subject to this guy a couple of years ago, he'd have no context. So maybe there's someone listening to this that is in the same boat as us, and that's okay. But this guy, we're having this conversation 2 years after starting IBC, and it's completely switched his mindset on using cash. He works in sort of like IT, like surveillance. He's in security system type stuff for a corporation. So he goes to work, but he's got this business partner. He's getting started in real estate. So he's doing that on the side. In the meantime, he wants to use cash for real estate better. So he's taking his cash flow from his work, he's putting in these policies, and he's putting it towards real estate. And he's expanding, and his business partner is really pushing. Pretty intense, kind of military background kind of guy. And so he's being pressed forward. And it's totally changed his mindset because now he's starting to see those real estate deals come back. And some of those are flipped. So he's getting lump sums of cash. And so he sees this growing and expanding. And by the way, that's his pathway out of his work. This real estate eventually is going to do this. And so we have gone and we started policies on his kids. And now he come back after we finished those up and immediately wanted to do another one on him, which is awesome. But there's a scenario where he is intentionally leaving space in his policies for these real estate deals to eventually come back. And he's plowing cash flow ahead in new policies. And he's going to have to start having new kids at this point. He wants to keep doing policies like this.
Which, by the way, I just want to jump in. Somebody asked a question here. Kevin asked a live question here. My problem is I have a huge pile of cash that I want to put into policies, but not enough income to sustain my current policies, much less more policies. Plus, I'm at the limit of how much insurance I can get on myself. Now, there's probably a lot more, details that we don't know based on that little bit. But just when you hear that, JD, what's maybe a thought that you have in light of this question Kevin brought up?
Some more questions for sure, but I think to me, that's not a problem to have a huge pile of cash. To me, that's an opportunity. And, depending on how your current policies are set up, you could obviously take that cash that you have and bleed it over to your current policies to offset wherever you're short on your income. But to me, it sounds like you have a really good opportunity there to obviously continue to sustain your current policies. I don't know if you have any loans on your current policies, to know if you need to repay some loans. But it sounds like you've done a really good job of planning if you're already at the limit of how much insurance you can get on yourself. That I would be looking at, where can you find some opportunities to deploy that cash to buy some assets?
Well, and I think if you buy the assets can produce the cash flow on a more sustainable basis that can pay the premiums, right? I think one of the things we talked about last week is that we also can think about when we buy assets and we borrow money from the insurance policies to buy those assets, not only are we wanting to make sure we have enough to pay back the money borrowed plus the interest the insurance company have charged us, but why not have extra meat on the bone that's also paying new premiums, right? So that's where I would think just getting us more focused. I got one last example, and I know we'll wrap up. By the way, if you're not a member of our Inner Circle, you need to be. Go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/inner circle, and you can participate in the second half of this discussion where we let everybody come in and we actually start drawing this out. And it's much easier to learn when it's just like example after example, and you get to ask your question to this specific topic. But here's an example I have. When would you ideally, Joey, like to have all the loans paid back on your life insurance policy?
I'd like to have them paid up whenever I want to sell off the assets I've created and create just a passive income stream. Doesn't take anything, to manage.
All right. So to say that simpler, when you get ready to take income from the life insurance policy, you would want to have all the policy loans paid off at that time so you could have the max income from it, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Perfect. You said that very well. I just wanted to compliment you on how well you said that. Well, I thought about that same exact scenario. So I have a dentist friend of mine, and he has a number of life insurance policies, and he's taken out policy loans to do private lending. He bought equipment for his practice. He's actually built a whole brand new practice using policy loans. There's just a lot of things. He actually did something really fun. He built a swimming pool with one of those really cool hot tubs that flows into the swimming pool, something I'm looking to do. Like, there's a lot of fun things he's used his cash values to use for. And he was asking me the question, when should I get all of these policy loans paid back? Because he was at that dilemma where his cash coming in was greater than his premiums, which were big, by the way, but it was still greater than his premiums, much, and it was to the tune of about $8,000 to $12,000 a month. It kind of varied. And he was like, obviously I can repay these policy loans, but at the pace that I'm repaying them, I'm going to pay them back off in 2 to 3 years. And I was like, yeah, that's going to be a problem, wouldn't it? He goes, yeah, because I plan to work for at least another 7 to 8 years. I was like, well, so if we pay back all the policy loans and in 3 years, then we start a policy, that policy is only going to be 4 or 5 years old when you get ready to quote unquote retire and leave the dental business. That's probably not an ideal situation for this policy. What would be more ideal is if we set up your policy loan repayments on a schedule to have it paid off at the end of the 7 to 8 year period of time. And by doing that, we could figure out exactly what the interest was going to cost him, the amount, the exact dollar he needed to charge for his current policy loans to, make his little schedule payback to himself. And then we knew exactly what the cash flow was differently to start new policies. And I don't know if you're an analytical like he is, but that was one of those really like eye-opening, like light bulb moments. He was like, oh, brilliant. So we can start this new policy for, I don't know, it was like $7,500 a month or whatever it was, because he said, okay, I have this extra $2,000 to $3,000 a month. I know this is what needs to go to policy loan repayment. And if I do that over the next 7 to 8 years, I'm going to have the current balance paid off. Now, we already said, we know we're going to borrow money over the next 7 years. So we're just going to need to add to that at the same schedule. So every time you borrow money, we need to make sure whatever repayment is going toward it is going to be paid off at the end of that 7 years. Now, if your situation is not like his, where you don't have a finite end date, you're like, I'm going to keep doing what I do forever. It's a little more difficult, but there are ways and methods like that you can come up with the answer. So I know this is one of those hard to tackle subject matters. Guys, I think you did an excellent job, Joey included. And I hope that this was at least gave you a start to, how would you think about what option should you choose? So first, we're going to do kind of a framework. Ernie, would you mind just like hitting those high points again for everyone of maybe the process they should take themselves through, and then we'll go ahead and jump into our inner circle.
A process for them to go through for what, Russ?
What would be the framework that someone should go through as they're trying to make this decision? There's probably 5 or 6 steps that they could go through, just summarizing what we covered today.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Yeah. So when we're making the decision, which is an over and over and over and over again decision, we want to know if we have cash coming in, where's it coming from? Is it consistent? Is it one time? Is it sustainable or is it a windfall? where are we at that point of, do I have 3 or 4 years before I want to hang up the hat and take passive income, or do I have 30 years? We'll let that dictate. Where are we? Are we on the way up, or are we about to crest and we want to start coming down? Do we need access to the full amount of the cash? Because we make a policy loan, we have we make a policy loan repayment, we have all the cash. We start a new policy, we were talking about with your friend, we have the startup period in that policy again. Is there any more cash returning in lump sum, another windfall in the future? I wonder if is your dentist friend, is he selling his business? Is he about to get a payday? You know, maybe he intentionally wants to not pay back that loan on that schedule if he's having a payday. And then where are you at with your current policies? If we're paying paid up addition rider, are we getting to a point where the premiums that we're paying now, we're soon not going to be able to pay those same premiums? And can we anticipate that and go ahead and take that difference and start a new policy? And then finally, are there other people who we need to insure? Because we're talking a couple of times, we max out our insurability. Well, are there other people that we need to be getting insurance on? Our spouses, but particularly our kids and our grandkids. Do we need to be thinking generationally when we're anticipating? I'm fine leaving this earth with policy loans if I've got policies going on my kids. Totally good with that. So that'd be a checklist of things that we want to check.
Man, so good. Thank you so much for listening to this discussion today. Joey, we're going to be back next week, and we're going to be talking about what?
Next week is, what is a term conversion? What does that even mean, and how can it benefit me?
All right, perfect. Well, come back and join us next week as we cover what is a term conversion, how do you use it, and as always, have an amazing day, and don't forget to join the Inner Circle so that you can participate every single week as we have these discussions going deeper into the inner canals of the life insurance and the infinite banking concept.
Did you say inner canals?
Yeah, the inner canal.
Is this like, that's the IBC, not the ENT? Like, ENT? Is this, what do we got going on here?
Is this like Venice?
Yeah.
By the way, thank you for asking me the topic literally on the spot like that. That is always my favorite.
Can we get some Sully in here? At what point are you going to actually be prepared for it, man? You know, like that's what I'm asking is at what point are you going to prepare for me to ask you that specific question?
All right, now who can go ahead and make everybody a panelist?
Yeah, I'm working on that right now. I'm giving people their weekly promotion. So awesome. our next to get promoted, Derek, you're coming in. Don's turn's coming in. David's coming in.
Turn on your video, man. Turn on your video. Turn on your audio. Let's do this thing.
Hey, Joel, how's it going?
What's going on?
David, Don.
Good to see you, man.
Lance, are you about to do like a CrossFit workout for us, or what we got going on?
Yeah. Hey, Brian, what's up, man? What's happening?
All right. Brian, hey, man, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, David, what's up, man? Good to see you.
Thank you.
I logged in and I was trying to figure out, why is he talking about U-Hauls and boxes? Then I realized he's just killing time.
Man,
that's how he makes his policy loans. He just fills up the U-Haul with boxes of greasy cash.
when a story hits my brain, it hits my lips about half a second later.
Unreal. All right, so you guys were listening in as we were covering that subject matter. First of all, have you ever had that question? You can speak up, you can unmute yourself and just join in the conversation, because we We don't have a specific hot seat guest, so we're all hot seat guests this week. But have you ever had that question? And yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
I think, Kevin, like, obviously you threw that question out. Did we help answer it in any way, or do we need to dive deeper into that? And did we lose Kevin because
I think we might have lost Kevin
of Joey's and his response? All right.
Oh, Kevin may be, well.
Yeah.
And also we have an 808 phone call number too. And I don't know if that may be Kevin there, but you want to promote the 808 too, Ernie, if you can?
Yeah, can't promote the phone call folks in.
I thought we were able to do that before, but anyway. All right. So tell us what did we leave out? Like, what's the question about that whole conversation that we didn't touch on that you're like, but what about this? And you can put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask us.
Or did we do such a great job there's nothing left unanswered?
Probably the latter.
No.
I'll just throw it out there because I did literally tune in when he was talking about U-Hauls and boxes. But I'm going to kind of follow Mark's lead a little bit here and pull some money out of a annuity that I have. And what I'm trying to figure out is I do have a loan against my 401k and against my policy. So, and then I want to start another policy. So I'm like, where do you go?
Yeah. Well, do you want to, would you be okay if we like drew it out and like tried to play it out here in front of everybody?
Sure.
Would you guys like that? Would that be helpful? Why don't we do this? Ernie, give me sharing privileges. I'm not going to tear your laptop apart today. I'm going to tear my own, and I'm going to start drawing. Now, just know that you're going to be looking at the ceiling, which for most of you guys are like, that's a win. But I'll do a little drawing here. I like to draw, but you guys gotta have to help me. So give me a second. Let me organize my thoughts.
Sound like Simon from Saturday Night Live. I like drawings. I like to draw.
Drawings.
All right, let's do this thing. All right, so let's share.
Joey just gave a courtesy laugh.
That's what you got to do with Russ.
Courtesy laugh? Okay. All right, so what you said there is we've got money in an annuity.
Correct.
And hey, by the way, for everybody watching, you guys have spell check on things. This is my spell check. So if I misspell a word, you guys just come get it out of that box and throw it over in the area that I missed. Okay. All right. So you've got money in an annuity, and you said, I got two things. I have an insurance policy loan.
Correct.
And I have a 401k loan.
Correct.
And then I have this goal of starting a new policy. Okay, well, a couple of things. The 401k loan, you have a payment on it that's happening every single month, correct?
That is correct.
And at your current pace, when will you have that loan paid off?
I'm thinking probably about 2.5 years.
2.5 years. All right. So let's address this. Are you going to stay at your company for at least 2.5 years?
I hope not. No. I hope nobody from this company is. Let's just not talk about where I work. How about that?
Well, okay. I don't. Well, so here, just for the purpose of the discussion, the reason that matters is because any loan that we don't pay off on the 401k will become taxable to us when we leave the company. Right? That's just the reason I asked that question. Did you know that, Brian?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So if you leave the company, then you have to pay it back all at once at that point in time, or they're going to consider that money that you took out a withdrawal, whatever the balance of that balance is. Okay. So that's not a good or bad thing. It just is.
It's a good to know.
So that's the reason that's important for that purpose. Now, so a couple of things here. As the company that you work for, depending on what sort of impact you may or may not have had, there may be ways that you can actually apply for the CARES Act provision and take a withdrawal out of your 401k this year and avoid the 10% penalty, assuming you're under the age of 59 and a half. Okay. And so Mark, who's nodding his head there, has done that. And, definitely maybe have a sidebar conversation with Mark on what he did. But that may be one idea. You might say, hey, would it be better for me to try to take money out of my 401k through this CARES Act provision? And maybe part of the money that you get, you use to pay off the loan. Maybe you just take advantage of the fact the loan exists. That's the two options you could have there. You could take money out from the CARES Act provision, then pay back the loan, and in essence have done exactly what you wanted to do, which was pay off the loan without having to worry about the penalty. There's a lot of little working parts that could go into that. But this is a required payment amount. So the one thing is if we pay off the 401k loan, which I'm assuming that's what you're considering, is, well, if I have money over here and it's annuity, I can pay off that loan. And then what do? Well, that frees up a payment, right?
Yep.
So you could pay off the loan and then take whatever your monthly payment is on your 401k and use that to start your new policy. That's also an option.
Okay.
The other thing is,
can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. Joey does all the time.
So that is my plan at this point. And so I've taken advantage of the CARES Act, but the CARES Act money is coming from the annuity, not from the 401k.
Gotcha.
I had more there too. I think Mark put it as he freed some of his friends. So I had more friends over there than I did in my 401k.
Gotcha. So you're using the CARES Act.
Hey Russ. Brian,
yeah.
It's a cumulative total by my understanding. So for example, if you had 75,000 in the annuity and 25,000 in the 401k, by my understanding, and I am not a tax professional, it is a cumulative total of 100,000.
Okay. I already pulled 100 from the CARES or from the annuity.
All right.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
You got
Treat soldiers.
Do you got an eraser?
You bet. Somewhere. Now, do I know how to use it?
And while Russ is working to erase, I just put the message in the chat. There is also the loan provision of the CARES Act, which allows you to take out a loan and do an interest-free loan until January of 21. And if you have an existing loan, if you didn't want to take out more, you could defer your payments and interest on that existing loan until January of 21.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's good to know, because I could do something there with the 401k.
Yeah. So do you know what the loan balance is here, Brian?
I think it's like 22.
Sorry,
Silly.
My computer is telling me that I've got to give it attention. I don't know if you can see that. I get that off there. Sorry. You said about 22,000, and your payment on your 401k is what?
It's like $245 or something.
$245 a month. Okay. All right, and then so obviously paying off $22,000 frees up $245 a month.
Yep.
Now we have a priority payoff guide, and it's gonna tell us where does this fall, right, on this index and score. And so the way you do that is you took 22,000 and you divided it by $245 a month. Who's got a calculator for me?
I can pull it up. What do you need?
89.8.
89.8. All right. So would that be a high priority item? This is going to be your urgent payoff, right? This is going to be, I forget whatever we call it. It's marginal. And this is like, don't worry about it past this point.
Caution,
I forget whatever we
freedom.
call it. What do we call it? Huh? Caution. Yeah, this is caution.
So 50 is caution.
And this is freedom. Yeah. So anything less than 50 is going to be urgent. Anything between 50 and 100 is going to be caution. So just kind of at that score, that gives you an 89.8. So that's a kind of a marginal, like in the middle there. Which one would you pay off? Now, the insurance policy loan, how big of a policy loan do you have there?
I think right now it's at 26.
26,000. Okay. So obviously paying off the insurance policy loan, now you have an interest rate of 5%. Are you making any loan repayments toward that, or is it just accruing?
I do it in kind of bulk when I get paid.
You just kind of pay, yeah, whenever it happens. Well, but if we take it just again, the backwards side of that is roughly about $1,250 a year is the current interest rate, or for simple, it's $100 a month, right? So if I took that same formula and I took $100 and I divided it into 26,000, what does that give me a score of?
26.
For those
26.
260, right? Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
So that one would be in that freedom score. So that would probably be one that I would not pay off, just using that simple kind of priority payoff guide as the act. Now, if you pay off the 401k, you've taken $22,000 and in essence pushed it out into the future until you can refree those friends up. If you don't pay off the $22,000, you're going to have a $245 a month payment for the next 2.5 years or less if you leave your company. And the implications of leaving a company means you're going to pay 10% penalty plus tax on whatever the dollars are that you're out. Now, I think we all probably agree that taxes are going up. So paying the tax on it today, that's not going to be the issue. Is it worth the 10% penalty? And at this pace, let's just say you left your company in 12 months, you've paid down another $2,500 or whatever it is. You pay 10% interest on $20,000 or $2,000. So really, this is the number that you're trying to say is, if I pay off the 401k, is it worth $2,000 to keep access to my money until past 59 and a half? Or is it not? And I can't answer that question for you. You've got to make that determination. But that would be one of the things that I would think of. So either way, if you pay off $22,000, you still have $78,000.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with paying down this, especially if this is a one-time lump sum and you don't have any extra cash flow, right? So you could say, if I pay off that, and then that leaves me $52,000 after paying that off. I thought maybe my screen would scroll up. I can't. Do I hit that and do that? Oh, nice. So, I could have $245 a month plus all those random cash flows that come in throughout the year that you've been using to make payments towards your life insurance policy loan, plus $52,000 of cash. And so you could set up an insurance policy, to dump that in. I don't know if that ends up being throughout the year. How much is this random payback to your current life insurance policy loan throughout the year been? Ballpark, a couple $1,000, $10,000. How much throughout the year do you think you throw toward that?
Well, I've actually taken three loans and paid 2 back so far.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
to the tune of about 40. So
$40,000 over what period of time?
When did we start, Joey? In July, I think, of last year.
Oh,
yeah, a little over a year.
So so your cash flows are fairly large. So the beauty of that is that you've got what I see you doing is building a second life insurance policy that has a base premium, probably I'm just going to round it and say it's $5,000. Then you have all this excess cash that comes in randomly. Maybe that's another $15,000 or something. Maybe it could be higher, depending on what you're telling me. And then you have probably a lump sum that you may not be able to get all of that 50,000 in year one, but let's just say you could get 35,000 of it.
Mm-hmm. I was running illustrations, and it wants to stop me at 60, I think. So
yeah, and you added all those together with that 55. Yeah, that's probably in that range. So that's what I would say is you're somewhere in that ballpark. I mean, there's not the hard part of this. There's not a one size fits all.
Right.
Depending on, as long as you know all the different working parts, then you can make the decision that best fits your scenario. So I hope that helped.
Oh, that's kind of what I was thinking of doing, but I guess it kind of confirms what to do.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then Oscar actually had a question as well. And Oscar, I may have you unmute just in case we don't really get specific enough. But he's talking about he wants our thoughts for situation consequences for not paying back a policy loan, or what situations would I only want to pay the interest only?
Okay. Jump in there.
Depends on where we're
All
at.
right. So, yeah, Mark, what's your thoughts?
Well, I think JD had mentioned it. Ernie had mentioned it. It depends on where we are on our cycle. Are we at the beginning where we can afford to carry a loan longer, knowing that, that's okay. There's going to be spots down the road where a windfall may come in, my salary or my earnings may go up. Or are we closer to the passive income portion where, hey, I want to try and get as much of that back out as passive income when that time arises, or maybe I'm thinking, I just need a place to store this for now because I know that I've got this other big opportunity coming up and I want to have those dollars available. I wish there was a one. JD.
I'll even say for me, because this is something that I've done recently, is just service interest on my policy loans, because I started a short-term rental business. So, between getting everything started and all those expenses that come with it, right? I've borrowed a tremendous amount of cash out of my policies, and we're still trying to cash flow, which we have cash flow coming in, but I don't want to take any out at the moment. So all we've done is basically just service the interest on our loans so it doesn't capitalize. And then as we start to bring in excess cash flow, then we'll start to repay those policy loans back. So that's an example I can think of right away. That's something that I'm currently doing, is just servicing the interest on our policy loans, not actually making the repayment.
Okay. Oscar, did that answer your question, or do we need to go deeper?
No, I think you hit some, and I think what resonated for me personally is what Mark was saying in terms of understanding where you're at in your situation. And I'm new to this game. I have 0 policy loans out, and thinking about it and planning. And one of the planning features that I'm using with respect to this policy loan is I'm on it's the insurance policy is on my wife. I'm on a government pension. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, my pension goes away. So the income from my wife then the policy loan is potential to supplement other life insurance that I have as income for my wife. So I realize now that I have to develop some kind of spreadsheet to calculate at different stages of when I get hit by that bus to determine where we're at as far as how much policy loan income to supplement her income, and at some point just not pay tell my kids to say, hey, just don't pay that loan back. It's not worth it at that point. So that's my initial thinking. Again, I'm new to this game, so interested if you have any comments based on that specific scenario.
Well,
first thought was avoid all buses.
Yeah, I had another thought too, Oscar, just as you mentioned this, and this may be an opportunity for us to expand the vision of what you've already created here a little bit. So you made the point, tell my kids not to repay the loans. Well, I want to think about this long range. If the kids had any excess capital, and this is going to take a whole mindset shift for the entire family, not just for one person, but if they could see the system that you've created as part of an overall family system, not just, Oscar's situation or your spouse or whatever, this is their family banking system that's been created. And Russ, you can jump in here at any point with like your own personal examples here, but at some point that life insurance is going to be passed to the next generation. If those loans have been repaid, that just means the death benefit is going to be passed down to them tax-free. So if that, again, I don't know if it will play into it or not, but it may be to their benefit to help repay loans on a policy that they don't even technically own because they're the beneficiary of it. Does that make sense? Any other thoughts on that, Russ?
No, I think one, the more that we the more we get involved in that. I mean, I had somebody text me today and ask me, hey, I know your in-laws live in the apartment above your garage. Why the house is being built? Are you guys somehow? Are they paying you rent? Are they doing something to help like build your financial thing? Are you guys working together in some way? And the answer is like, we do family banking within our family. And when there's money, like to be borrowed, like we borrow it internally. So that's a constant cycle. So we try to see our money as one big pool instead of separating it. And I think that's what you were saying there, Joey. Just the more we can think about this, not in maybe a silo, but in more of a holistic viewpoint, there may be some opportunities to keep money at work, because we never want money sitting stagnant, right? And we want to make sure the money is constantly at work and working at its highest and best use as well. What other questions came up for you guys as we did that, if any, before we jump off? Because I know we're past our time. Hey, really quickly, thumbs up.
I've got one.
Go ahead,
Brent.
Hey, so I've got a short-term rental that just started a couple of months ago, and I want to take the cash flow that I'm getting from it to start a new policy. Since the cash flow is not always going to be the same every month, is there sort of like a calculation, like a percentage that I should be looking at to put towards a policy? Kind of how do you guys do that when you have a new property that's cash flowing? How do you look at that?
Yeah, I would just kind of like I was showing a second ago to Brian. I'm going to pick the top number, the total premium going in, to be close to what my max is every month. Maybe 5 or 10%. Let's say you clear $2,000 a month after all expenses, or $1,500 a month, or whatever your number is. I may go down 10% from that, leave a 10% margin buffer. But that's going to be the max premium I could put in there every single month. And then I'm going to make sure the minimum premium that I have to put in is a slam dunk, which is always about 30 to 40% of whatever the max number is anyway. And so that way, most months you're going to be able to hit your max, but you're never going to have to worry about the minimum. And so, that's a hard number to do, but that's the way I would set it up, just because then I can get as much money at work as possible, but know that, and it'll be important as you pick the insurance company, you pick a company that will let you adjust that paid up additions rider throughout the year. So there's a couple companies that we work with where that's not a problem. Like whenever there's potentially going to be fluctuations, we use those companies instead, just so for flexibility reasons. That makes it really easy. So I think that's a good one. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
All right, perfect. So what did you guys think about the ATM investing podcast today? Have you guys had a chance to listen to it yet? Thumbs up.
I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I haven't heard it yet.
We've
now just got to become an accredited investor.
Yeah. Well, we've got, there's actually, there is a workaround on that. I don't know if you guys know this, but when you get the reason accredited or investor stuff exists, it's like the CYA for companies doing business with people, that they assume that as a accredited investor, meaning you have at least $200,000 of income in the last 2 to 3 years, or have $1 million of assets, is that they assume that you have a high enough financial IQ that you're going to make the right decision. The workaround on that, and most people don't know this, is that if you build a relationship up, and I don't know, again, that criteria is a little in the gray with the company and the individuals doing the business, that is the opt out, right? Because through that relationship, through that knowledge of each other, you've determined that. So just for anybody who is not ever an accredited investor, but has the funds and has the financial IQ to apply toward those things, just get to know. And by the way, that's not a bad idea, to get to know the people that you would be investing with anyway, pretty well. And if you let them know on the front end, hey, by the way, my goal is to get to know you really well, so then I can invest with you in these sort of things. I don't think you're probably going to have a lot of problems with that. So that is a small workaround that most people don't even know exists. Well, we have a live Q&A with Dave Zook coming in 2 weeks, I think, 2 Tuesdays from now, if I'm right. We'll make sure that that's been promoted, but that was something that's been asked for, and we finally got that on the book. So hope you guys enjoy that. All right. Well, thank you for listening, participating. Have an amazing day. Good to see your faces.
Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your